Sorry about that. Sorry. Big clown feet. It's a photograph of my grandfather, John Henry Mock. 24 in this picture. He does look a bit like Wayne Rooney, doing a bit. He was in the Irish Guards. I've been doing some research into him. And that photograph was taken in 1928 and actually says on there, "To Peg, love, Johnny." And it was one of a series of postcards that British soldiers at the time did. Come back to my grandfather a bit later on. But in terms of World War I War Memorial, I've been reading up a lot about World War I recently. It was a war fought by generals, and they were fighting a mechanised war using cavalry tactics. Men were slaughtered with machine guns and shells, and they charged the lines with bayonets. Blackadder is actually quite correct when they sum up the First World War. Meanwhile, the generals sat behind their desks. Troops on the front line getting slaughtered, their own officers were saying the tactics weren't working, but the generals wouldn't listen. Their egos and pride blocked out sense and sensibility. Shell shock and PTSD were interpreted as cowardice. And the orders for dealing with that were clear. And it's worth remembering that today, on Mental Health Awareness Day, 306 Commonwealth troops were executed for cowardice. Men who should have been in medical care were effectively murdered on orders. Bad news was whitewashed, carefully managed. The wounded, the maimed, the gassed were all hidden away. Oh, what a lovely war. It'll all be over by Christmas. Eventually, everyone came to their senses. But not until 19 million people had died. More wounded. And yet here we are in 2018, and it's times it's like watching history repeat itself. People behind desks who are wedded to orders, ego and pride getting in the way, people who won't listen, people who choose not to listen, except to their vain, glorious generals. My grandfather, he was in the Irish Guards. And part of his history goes a bit dark. And I've been trying to get to the bottom of this for years, and we found out why. It's because he was with the Irish Guards and part of a film crew that went to Bergen-Belsen. And they made a film, and the film was suppressed by the government at the time because it was thought to be too disturbing for the public to know the details of what they discovered. It was eventually released a few years ago in an amended form as a film called Night Will Fall. And I wouldn't recommend you watch it, but if you watch it, have a strong stomach. My grandfather, he suffered PTSD. We know now he suffered from PTSD. He would blurt out things he saw. Things that, given the censorship of the original film, only someone who was at the ground at Bergen-Belsen would have known, would have seen. So I'm all in favour of a war memorial to honour the men of Portishead who fought in World War I, to honour the memory of all, including my grandfather. But we honour the war dead in more than just stone and brass. We honour them with our actions. Otherwise, we honour the reasons why they fought. Otherwise, we dishonour them with hypocrisy and platitudes of freedom and liberty and democracy. Only the dead have seen the end of war. And that was by George Santayana in 1922. But I think that when it comes to having some kind of inscription on a memorial in Portishead, and I'm fully behind it, I will defer to Harry Patch, the last surviving Tommy. And he said, "Politicians who took us to war should have been given the guns and told to settle their differences themselves, instead of organising nothing better than legalised mass murder." He was a Somerset man. Perhaps we should have that on the Somerset War Memorial.